Get your mother-loving ears on because your big-time radio DJ's got news. PayPal lets you choose how you want to pay for all the stuff. With PayPal, I can pay in-store, pay online, or pay over time. What's that? You want this translated into song? I hope you're sitting down. You can pay your own way. You keep those ears on, you hear? Don't just pay, baby. PayPal.
Learn more at paypal.com.
Hello, and welcome to It's a Fandom Thing. I'm your host, Erin Marlowe, and each week I'm joined by a panel of guests to discuss all things fandom and pop culture, primarily from a female perspective. You'll find everything from fanfic to cosplay to Schitt's Creek to Supernatural and everything in between. So put on your favorite piece of fandom merch, set aside that fanfic that you're writing about your OTP, and sit back and enjoy this week's episode. Hello, and welcome to It's a Fandom Thing. I'm your host, Erin Marlowe, and on this episode, we are wrapping up my birthday month with a look at one of my all-time favorite novels by my favorite author, Odd Thomas, which was written, of course, by Dean Koontz. And once again, Dean Koontz is 100 billion times better than Stephen King. I always have to put that in there. I don't know if Dean Koontz would approve of me doing that, but I'm going to do it anyway.
He doesn't get a say.
Yeah, he's not here. But joining me to talk about this novel is Carla from OK Real Quick. So hello, Carla.
Hello, Erin. I'm very excited to talk to you about this book that is absolutely all happiness the whole way through.
Yes, I remember when Carla first read this book and all the messages, and Carla hadn't gotten to the end yet. And I was like, oh my gosh, just wait. And then the messages after she got to the end. Yep, the heartbreak. Yes. I remember reading this, years and years ago when it first came out in 2003. So this is an old book.
This book can drive and vote and drink.
Yeah, so I read this when it was first published. So, yep. And of course, there's a series of books. There's also there's a graphic novel version and everything like that too. I still to this day think this should have been adapted as a TV series and not a movie. And I will just die on that hill. And each season could have been one of the books. Hello.
My God, it's like right built in there. Maybe they could have skipped the second book though.
I tend to agree with you. But we are going to be spoiling this book. And so if you haven't read this book and you plan on reading it, do not listen to us because you do not want to be spoiled for the ending, really. Honestly, you should not be warned ahead of time. It's something that you have to endure.
You have to live through yourself.
Yes.
Oh, no. I'm just remembering that I also did this to my husband because...
Oh, you did?
Yeah, but it was even worse because he was driving when he got to the end.
Oh.
He was like, oh my God, I almost had to pull over.
Oh, that would be hard. Yeah, that would be really hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I've cried harder at a Dean Koontz book than this one. I have cried at other Dean Koontz books, I want to say, but well, maybe I cried harder at Big Little Life, the one that he wrote about his dog, because it's dogs. It's me. But I sobbed, and I remember my roommate at the time, I made her read it, and she's like, oh my God, I cannot believe I'm crying at this book. So yeah, so this is your spoiler warning. Leave now and then read it and come back. Or you can listen to the audiobook. Heads up on the audiobook, though. I don't know if you listened to the audiobook, Carla.
I did.
I have to say, the narrator some of his voice work with some of the characters really irritated me.
Any of the female characters really get on my nerves.
Yeah, well, his voice work for Little Ozzy made me want to pull all of my hair out.
Because he made him sound like Garfield, but British.
Yes, I'm like, what are you doing?
Well, for me, for the second book, it was worse because like that one character, like that woman, was awful. I could almost not get through the entire book because of that. And I will say that I actually read the physical book, like the first book. Like I actually read it, so I wasn't traumatized by his voice. I was just traumatized by the book, like anybody should be.
Yeah, the second book I read that. I've never done the audio version of that. And then there's quite a few in the series, but we won't be talking about those really today. But once again, this is your last warning. Go away if you don't want to be spoiled. But I'm going to give you a brief description, and I'll give you trigger warnings as well, because this does need trigger warnings. So Odd Thomas is a thriller novel by writer Dean Koontz that was published, like I said, in 2003. The novel derives its title from the protagonist, a 20-year-old short order cook named Odd Thomas. So basically, Odd Thomas is a fry cook that also sees dead people. Like, in The Sixth Sense, I see dead people. And dead people don't talk to him. They don't say words, but he sees several dead people. He also is, led to help them discover like the people that may have hurt them or killed them, such as in the beginning of the book. And then also he sees these things called bodocs, which are like evil, shadowy spirit creatures. I wouldn't necessarily call them demons, but I guess you could maybe like link them with that. And then he sees a bunch of them around a man that Odd nicknames Fungus Man due to his waxy complexion and his blonde hair that resembles mold. And so that leads Odd to investigate what might be going down, what might be happening. And he knows there's some terrible event that's going to happen really soon in Pico Mundo, which is where he lives. He also has a girlfriend, Stormy Llewellyn, who is very, very important to this story. And we will get to the ending. Oh, man.
I'm not ready.
That look on your face. And once again, like I said, it became a series. I think it's still going on. And there was a film adaptation in 2013 with the same name, starring the late Anton Yelkin, who played Odd Thomas. And I'm not a fan of the film adaptation of this book. I know that Dean Koontz was involved and helped with everything, and he approves of it, but I just think it was missing something, frankly, and that's why we needed a TV version. But enough about that, Erin. Let's get into the book. So, Carla, on a scale of 1 to 5 bodocs, what do you rate Odd Thomas?
Okay, here's the thing. That's a controversial scale. Because I want to give it 0 bodocs because bodocs are scary as hell. But in the spirit of just ranking it, it's a 5. It's a 5+. It is it's just one of the best books I've ever read. Just I'm sad for people who haven't read it. I'm also sad for people who have, for reasons.
I mean, yes, same. And I know, I was like, should I really put this as the way we're going to rate this? But I decided to. I could have done some kind of short order cook thing or ice cream scoops or, because
1 to 5
Stormy
spatulas.
works. Yes, I could have done that, but I went, no, I'm going to do really twisted way of rating this. So apologies. But yes, I give it 5 as well. Like I said, this is my favorite author, and this book is proof why he's my favorite author. I'm not saying every book he's written I've liked, such as I don't like the next one. And there's another book that he wrote that I really can't stand. But this book is proof to me why he's such a great author. It's like, if you want to first get into Dean Koontz, I would recommend this book. A couple others too, but this one to really get a feel of what his writing style is and the way the rest of his books are, pretty much. And I just think he adds so much heart and love in his stories, even the dark parts, even though there's a lot of darkness in his stories, he still is able to add some of that light and love in it. And I think that's what this kind of reflects. So, and he always has weird people. And I always like that he embraces the really weird people. His protagonists are always weird people. And I love that. And his antagonists are always really, really really scary.
Very like
Always.
twisted people.
Yeah, there's still a book that I still haven't been able to finish of his because the antagonist is so scary. That's the book False Memory.
No, I'm just thinking, I think I read it.
With the psychiatrist?
Yes, I read that one.
So, what are your overall thoughts then on our main protagonist? Odd one, Odd Thomas.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I love him. He, to me, the first time that I read the book, Anton Yelchin made absolute sense for casting for the movie. I thought that that's like a really good match for like the energy and the kind of, innocence, but still having like gravitas that I think that the character needs. I think like Tom Holland fits that now too. And in some ways, Damien Haas feels like would kind of capture a lot of some of the aspects of Thomas that are more, because Thomas is Thomas is such a like a sensitive, caring guy, but he has like a bit of an edge to him that I think if you're just kind of reading it at a glance, you're just like, oh, he's just a sweet guy, but he has more to him. He's not one dimensional, and I really enjoy that. And I forgot what the question was, but that's my answer.
Your overall thoughts on the character?
Oh yeah, there you go. Okay, so there you go. So yeah, he's sweet. There's like innocence to him because like he has such a dark past from his parents, particularly his mother, who was like, woo, really did a number on him, and everything that he's had to see and see through, be the conduit through which people who have been through awful things get justice. And I nobody can be just sweet and innocent having lived through all of that. So I think it is good that he's not just a charming little angel. He is a charming little angel, but he is haunted, and he has like gray areas. He does things that no sweet little angel is gonna do. Because I don't think a sweet little angel is gonna move a body,
Yeah.
But yeah, like this is a kid who is traumatized, and I just want to give him a hug,
Yeah.
And he's a virgin for so long. No, I'm kidding. Like, it's so sad. He's a virgin for. No, I'm kidding. But like, honestly, I didn't even think about that the first couple of times that I read the book. But this time I was like, oh wait, he never gets laid. He just gets to feel ghost booby, and that's it. Oh my god,
ghost booby.
I'm just trying to laugh at the pain, okay?
Yeah, like is said by him, he sees dead people, but then I see dead people, but then by God, I do something about it. And I think what's interesting about this character is, he never really is like using his gift as a means for financial gain. Like there's never ever a moment when he does that. Like he works as a short order cook, and he actually has great pleasure in that. He really enjoys doing that. And I think it's because he had such a traumatic childhood, and his parents, especially his mom, really were awful. And because of that, I think he wanted something simple, and especially when he has this gift and when he's always seeing dead people, like Elvis is a big character in this, and he always sees Elvis a lot, and Elvis cries a lot.
Yes. Oh my God. Poor dead king.
So he's always seeing dead people. And so if you're surrounded by death like that, that can take a toll on you mentally. And so I think the fact that he is a short order cook is part of his way of dealing with the toll that seeing dead people takes on him. And I love that trait about him. I think he's a really great, wonderful person, but he doesn't feel unrealistic. Like he still takes chances that he probably shouldn't. He still does things that maybe he shouldn't do, but he's in the end a really, really good person who just really wants to help others. and he turned his tragedy into something that's good, And I want to say his relationship with Stormy is it's one of the reasons the ending is so heartbreaking, because his relationship with her is so beautiful to watch, because Stormy had also a really, really, I forgot to give my trigger warnings. I'll get those so let me give the trigger warnings here before I get into Stormy, because trigger warnings for child abuse, sexual abuse, pedophilia, mass shootings, mass killings, bombs, dead bodies, ghosts, all that stuff. Tons of, anything you can think of, kind of, really, honestly, you could put in here. So
the book is packed with trauma.
Yeah, because Stormy was abused, and she is not ready to have sex and doesn't want to have sex yet. And that's never something that Odd pushes, it's not like something that is pushed or something that he's like, yes, he wants to have sex with her, but it's not in this way where it feels like he's disrespecting her boundaries or the reason that she wants to do it, because that she wants to wait. And I mean, that's because I think Odd is kind of like, I can't believe this woman even wants to be with me in the first place. So, and they were, of course, got the card that they were destined to be together forever from the, I know, I'm sorry. Blame Dean Koontz.
Never trust a psychic in a box.
Yes, we learned that in Big, I thought. But yes, this is one of my favorite characters ever, period. And probably my favorite character that Dean Koontz has ever written. There's another one in the Christopher Snow that is also another one of my favorite characters that he's ever written. But yeah, I love this character. And I agree. I think the casting for the movie was really well done with Odd Thomas. That was like the perfect person to cast. I had a problem with the movie overall. It seemed like it just really reveled in the humor, because there's a lot of humor in this book. And so it just kind of leaned so hard into that it kind of didn't do the darkness as dark as I thought it should have been. It wasn't as heavy, but I thought that was great casting. So we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the other characters in the book, because there are lots of great characters in this book. And then we'll also talk about, I don't know why I said, do you think the villainous, I meant to say villains. I don't know why I said villainous. We'll also talk about the plot.
The boat got into you.
The mass shooting plot line and the villains of the book as well. So we'll be right back.
At Sierra, discover joyous deals on great gifts for everyone on your list, like cozy slippers, ski gear, fishing poles, bikes, large kayaks, even larger canoes. Whew, which might lead to another discovery. Wrapping gifts is the only sport you need to stay fit this season. 'Tis the season to discover great gifts at unexpectedly low prices. Sierra, let's get moving.
Okay, so there are lots of great characters in this book other than Odd. Like, of course, Odd's true love, Stormy Llewellyn. There's also Chief Wyatt Porter, which I also loved the casting of Willem Dafoe as this character too, I want to say. And since we're going to talk about the villains, I'll skip over their names, but you've also got Little Ozzy, which, again, warning, if you do the audiobook, the voice for this character will make you want to pull your hair out. I don't know what this person was doing, but it was so flippin' distracting. I was like, seriously, this is the voice you're using for this character? And lots of other great characters too. But so what are your thoughts on the other characters in the book, and who is your favorite, other than Odd Thomas, of course?
I think one of the things that I like so much about the book is that it's filled with characters who they're all weird in their own way, but they're also incredibly accepting of Odd, who is incredibly weird. And the thing is, all humans have something about them that is weird and odd. There is no such thing as like the blueprint for the correct way to human. That's just not possible. Everybody has a way in which they differ from somebody else. And that's part of why humanity is such a cool thing. In this book, I like that he has he has all of these friends who, whether they know like all of his secrets or not, they accept him exactly as he is. And he doesn't seem to really realize just how loved and accepted he is, which is such an interesting thing too. But I liked, obviously the chief I think is great. I really like Ozzy because I think that this is somebody who is being so generous to just this random little guy and who has kind of taken him, he has like made it his mission to take him under his wing. And he doesn't realize when he starts dealing with him that he's going to be walking him through some severe trauma down the line. And he is somebody who has also dealt with a lot of trauma himself, whether or not he actually is willing to deal with it. But I think his way of dealing with it is kind of like helping Odd. So he has like a huge generosity of spirit. And when it comes to quote unquote larger than life characters, AKA the fat characters in the book, I just generally don't like the way that fat people are written, in particular, anything like before the 2020s. I think is like glaringly obvious how anti-fat people are. And I do like that this is a benevolent character. Just the focus on his size is unnecessary. Yeah. But again, so like this largesse and this generosity is, visually written out through his fatness. And I'm like, I don't know that we needed to go that route. It's good. I'm not saying it's not good to have a fat character. I'm just saying that like, it's just, we didn't need to go about it that way. What I like so much about the chief is that he's just a dude trying to do his job, but he is open to explanations for why things happen outside of the observable. And he doesn't give Odd a hard time for being how he is. And he tries to work with him within, the structure of Odd's relationship to the spirit world. I like, oh my gosh, what is her name? The owner of the cafe.
And you can't. It's weird that they don't list that character,
right? Because like she's kind of a big deal. Terry. Oh my god.
Oh, thank you.
Good Lord.
Holy moly. Okay.
Okay. So 10 minutes later, I love Terry because she's, she really took him in at a very difficult point in his life where he was trying to get away from his awful mother and give him a job and helped him get on his feet. And, he constantly refers to her as his mentor. He's 20 years old. He's a fry cook. Why does he need a mentor? Well, because he has nobody else to teach him about life. He has had nobody in his corner in that sense. So it's so important that he has her. Even his landlady, oh, that poor woman. I think that like part of what's important with her is that she is an easy way for Odd to. It's like, okay, so he has this gift that brings so much pressure and so much difficulty to his life, and here is somebody who is asking for something very simple. It's very consistent and it's very simple. She's not demanding that he, bring justice to anybody. She's not demanding that, that he fix her life. She just wants reassurance that she's still there. And that's something small that he can give her. And she also gives him cookies and lets him just randomly borrow her car. So that's always nice.
Even when he doesn't ask first.
Right. Which was so funny. Like, oh, can I borrow your car? Didn't you just bring it back? Yes, ma'am. Oh, yes, continue borrowing it then. And of course, I'm dancing around the whole Stormy thing. Okay, I'm going to get to it, but not right. I'm not ready. And Viola, I liked that, she's a devoted mom. She's a very loving person. I'm very mad at her, though. And I'll get to why I'm mad at her. But, she recognizes something in Odd that, she can tell that he has a gift of some kind. And she also has a gift of some kind. She's just not aware of all of the different aspects to these gifts. But I liked seeing her interactions with Odd and how she has so much faith in him. And I think that whether or not he wants somebody to have faith in him in that particular regard, he needs people to have faith in him, period. And to have somebody who just really trusts him without him having to prove himself, I think is so great. So let's talk about Stormy. Good God, I guess we're going to do that. Sure, let's talk about Stormy.
Wow.
If we must. Okay, the first time that I read the book, before I got to the end, I was like, I don't like the way that Dean Koontz is describing this girl, because he's basically deifying her and, putting her on this pedestal. And it's just really weird to me that this man is so like obsessed with his girlfriend and that he sees her as like unfailing and just, perfect in every sense. And then you get to the end and you're like, okay, it makes so much more sense now. Like, it really falls into place. Why? Because this is all, looking at it from the point of view of grief. And when you're grieving the person you love most in the world, somebody with whom you saw a future, you're only 20 years old and you saw your whole life ahead of you and your life was just about to begin. And now she's gone, and letting her go was so hard for Odd. So yes, it makes sense. This is supposed to be like his memoir, his way of getting these things out. And yes, little Ozzy believes in his potential as a writer, but I think that because little Ozzy works through his trauma through writing, the best he could offer to Odd was to help him get through his grief through writing. So him pushing him to write his story as a memoir had less to do with, hey, write a book, you're really good at writing, with this has helped me in the past, I know this will help you, and I'm going to make you do this for your own good because you need to get out of your head and you need to work through this. Which again, just speaks to Ozzy's generosity of spirit and to how much he loves Odd. And one thing that I love in this book is that this kid, his parents were god awful. He had a neglectful father. He had an absolutely abusive, narcissistic mother. But he had wonderful people lining up to step into those parental nurturer roles for him. So he is extraordinarily lucky because he had multiple people vying to be his father figure. And he had Terry trying to be his mother figure. He had people just constantly trying to feed him and clothe him and make sure that he's okay and that he's taking care of himself. And as much as I think that the chief is the one that I think Odd would see more as the father figure, I think it's really Ozzy who's more the parental person in his life, because he gives him all of this uncomplicated love and nurturing and the push that he needs to confront his pain. And so Stormy was this, huge influence on his outlook in life and on how he viewed his place in the world. So again, in retrospect, not while I was first reading the book, but in retrospect, I can see why he sees her as this, this goddess. He's because she's no longer in this world. She's no longer physically present for him. So people who you love that are gone, it's so healing to see only the good sides of them, especially being so young when they hadn't had a chance to really have like big blow ups and have hard life things where, they're worried about a mortgage and, you don't change the diapers enough and, like you've gone bowling 4 times this week and I have nobody to help me feed the kids. Their love was simple and uncomplicated in that regard. And she's also just such a cool person. She's such a cool character. The way that she's written, she has a lot of bravery, which I think it's good and it's also bad because there was also, I think, a lot of pride tied up in it. And unfortunately, that was part of why the ending ends up being so tragic. She doesn't want to back down from anything. Very understandable considering her upbringing. She was abused so much and she was put in a position to have to advocate for herself at a very young age when nobody should have to do anything but like color and watch crappy TV, but she didn't want or need Odd defending her. She wanted to be part of his journey as a co-pilot, not as a passenger, not as somebody that he needed to put the oxygen mask on. She wanted to put her own oxygen mask on and help him save the day where she could, where it made sense. But, from a more detached point of view, she's stubborn, she's willful, she's incredibly loving and kind, and has very interesting observations, and has her own boatload of trauma that she hasn't sufficiently worked through. So the discussion that they had about sex, which I thought was like, oh, that is such a man way to write. So why are you scared of having sex? Like, okay. And then for her to end up apologizing for like, oh, I'm sorry I set you off and that you had to say that. Like, he didn't have to say that. He should be apologizing to you unreservedly. But it made sense that she would have wanted to wait, just not only until she was ready, but until she felt safe enough with Odd. And it took this event of her fearing for her life to feel like, oh, well, I really trust this guy and I really feel like I can give him all of myself. So yeah, going back, it doesn't end up making, it made so much sense the way that she was written. Also, the descriptions of Stormy remind me of Poe's description of Lenore in The Raven. And, the book does mention Poe and The Raven very early on. It just like as a quick little brush by thing. But it's there's a lot of similarity in the way that that character in The Raven talks about Lenore, like, oh, this, rare and radiant maiden whom the angels name Lenore. And then you have Stormy being this goddess among women, and like she's the only person who can elicit these feelings and everybody's in love with her. It's all tied in the same thing. It's like there's trauma, there's grief. So yeah, whatever, Stormy, I don't care.
Wow.
Okay, whatever. Stupid book.
A little throwaway there. Whatever.
I hate reading.
I hate reading. I hate books.
Books were a bad idea.
Yeah, no, I agree with so much of what you've said about all these characters, and with describing Ozzy and with the body and the fat and everything like that. Yes, that especially, it bothered me more now than it did, say, in 2003 when I first read this, because there are like so many lines that you're like, really? You didn't have to put that in there. That wasn't necessary. We get it. You could have just described him as that, like for like just a one line, and then you don't have to use every other thing. Like, he has a hard time getting out of the chair. I'm like, oh my God, dude.
Well, I'll look through the wine because otherwise it'll take you 5 minutes to get out of this chair.
Yes.
You fat tub of lard. Like,
yes, it's
do
like,
we need to do this?
No, I do want to also mention his cat. Little Ozzy's cat. Oh my gosh.
Carol Chester, yes.
Yes. Oh, I love that cat, because that's one thing Dean Koontz does better than I think most authors, is he writes animals and pets so well. And that's because he loves them. So he is, most of his books before this one would include like a dog, like almost always. Trixie, who he wrote A Big Little Life, and he wrote these other books that are like children's books and stuff. Around her is like, was like the best dog in the world kind of thing. But I just love that cat because that cat is like such a cat. And so well written. And the fact that it doesn't really like Odd necessarily. It doesn't really like anyone necessarily except for Ozzy. So I love the cat too. I just want to give a shout out to the cat because I, had forgotten a little bit about that until revisiting it. But I agree that, little Ozzy overall is very much a father figure for Odd, much more than anyone else. And I think with Wyatt, I think Wyatt is actually kind of almost like an uncle character for Odd. It's like that but I do love the fact that Odd has so many people around him that are supportive of him and love him and care about him, because it'd be very easy in a story about a character like this to be like, there's only one person in the world that understands Odd, and it's Stormy, and there's nobody else. And I appreciate that that isn't the case in this. And I think it is because this is just a group of really unique, weird people. And I think that's one thing that Koontz does so well, and he always has, is he really embraces the weirdness and oddities within people and how unique people are. And, you know, there's a really great novel of his that I think is his most underappreciated novel, and it's called Strangers. And it's probably his longest book he's ever written. And that is so many different characters. And I think that one really embodies that, the way he does that so well, where he can have so many unique characters that even if they're in there for like just one scene, you remember them, and he describes them so well that you instantly kind of can visualize what they look like and latch onto them. And I love that he does that and that he embraces the oddities of people. We should have done a tally of how many times we say the word odd in this.
Somebody needs to sit with a counter.
Yeah. So out there, I'm not going to say take a shot when we say it because you'll be drunk really soon, but keep a counter and tell us how many times we said it. And yeah, I love, you know, I'm talking about all the really good people in this, not the villains. We'll talk about that next, but I love all of them and their uniqueness and the way they embrace this character. And they also don't use Odd really, you know, and that could have happened too, where they could have been like, well, we're going to use your gift, especially Chief Wyatt. He easily could have been like, okay, I'm going to use you to solve all these cases, whether you like it or not. But instead, he really likes his gift. But at the same time, he's like, your gift kind of causes me problems at times. Like in the very beginning, when he chases down that awful person that killed the little girl. And that is awful. And it's great that he stopped him before he could do it again. But at the same time, the chief's like, well, how am I going to do that? How am I going to explain this? How am I going to explain that you knew, you know, like, and coming up with the stories and everything like that. So it's got to be great. But at the same time, it's also got to be frustrating when you're trying to do things to make sure that everything is handled in the appropriate way. So I appreciate that he wasn't like taking advantage of him ever. He was just like, I care about you, but, you know, maybe you can just ease off. Maybe you can try and make my life easier. Maybe you can,
right. Could you try not trespassing onto people's property?
I know.
Would that be okay?
Can you not like take bodies? But
would you please stop stealing cadavers?
Yeah.
It makes the investigation so much easier when you don't do that.
Yeah, please stop stealing the bodies. Odd. And I want to say, and I didn't say this when we were talking about just the character, but I do love all the people, all that are like little tiny people that just, not so tiny people, but you know, like they're characters that are there for like a blip.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love the nurse who was very
Yes,
clearly
and-
flirting with Odd. And he's like, what, you know, you can't make eggs like that.
Yes, he's kind of like dense when it comes to stuff like that. I'm like, this person wants to have some fun with you, and you're just like, yeah, he doesn't do flirting very well. He doesn't understand when people are flirting with him.
Like, hi, you're friendly.
Or even when he's like at the convenience store and he's bleeding and he's, you know, he's been hurt and he's like, I try to be nice to people, but this convenience store person is just annoying.
Like, I really went off on him. And then he's just like, I get flicked in the forehead with a fork.
So even the little one-off characters are written so well that they add some enjoyment to it. So it's not just like you're going, I saw the clerk Bob, and then you go on. It's more like giving some kind of unique descriptor to them or some interesting line or the way that they affect Odd or stuff like that is just really interesting. And I want to talk about Elvis for a second because Elvis isn't in the movie except for a cardboard cutout, because I'm sure that's because they probably couldn't get permission from the estate to use him. Which makes sense. But at the same time, it was one of those things where I was like, this character is such a part of the fabric of this character of Odd and of this universe because it's so weird. Like he says that Elvis would be here of all places, and this is where Elvis is going to be. And the fact that Elvis cries so much, and it's just kind of like this interesting little thing to put there where you have this character that, Elvis in real life, it was a singer and a musician. So to have someone who was a singer, known for his voice, known for that, not talk, is such a unique way to have that character in there. So it'll always bother me. And I understand the estate was probably like, we're not going to have you do this to the memory of Elvis. And I'm like, it's not, they're respecting Elvis. It's not.
Right, exactly. There's nothing but praise for Elvis.
I know, but I just thought it was
book.
such a unique way to have Elvis in a story because he doesn't talk. You never have him say any of his lines. You never have any kind of like interesting way of like, he never sings. He never does any of that. He's just sad. He's just really sad.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, he offers, he's a ghost, right? And he's a persistent ghost. And he's very attached to Odd. God knows why. It's not like Odd is helping him in any way, but he finds it in his ghostly heart to comfort this person that he knows is going to go through something awful. We never find out what he does in his off time, as in when he's not sitting there with Odd, just like hanging out, like, let's just be pals or whatever the hell Elvis is thinking when he's haunting him. Part of the reason that he's like the parts at which it's made a point of that he's crying are when he's trying to comfort Odd, when he grabs his hand and just looks at him like I wish I could do something for you, but all I can do is offer you comfort. And that to me, it's so beautiful. It's like such a beautiful thing. Of all of the dead famous people in the world, it's a very interesting choice. But that's part of why it's so effective. It's because it's like such a random choice. He could have picked somebody who is known for their comforting of people, but they chose Elvis. And it's like, sure, why not? But it's very effective the way that he's used. Yeah,
that's why it was such a bummer that it wasn't in the movie, because it's such a essential part of his character. It's such, even beyond just this book, it's very, it's something that remains of having he's surrounded by dead people. And so to have a dead person that actually is like a friend, this is like his friend.
Right.
And it's Elvis. And that's just an interesting thing. And I really love the way Koontz uses Elvis in this. I think that was such a unique choice, especially, like I said, because this is a character that, and also what you were saying about, if you're thinking of someone who's going to be comforting, you're not necessarily going to think of Elvis, but also having a character that was so famous because of their voice, not having a voice, is also just really, I think, essential, which could be also part of what is driving this character, is he doesn't have the voice anymore. He can't use his words. So how can he use himself to help Odd and to be a friend to Odd? So I will always appreciate that and always be bummed that wasn't in the movie. So if we ever get a television adaptation, which I still wish we could, I would want Elvis in there, but it'd probably be another thing where they'd be like, we're not going to do this. I'm like, it's not disrespectful to your who was not a good person. So it's like Elvis was this.
Like, what are we trying to protect here?
Elvis was not a pillar of virtue, okay? Far from it.
No.
We've just romanticized him a lot. So, yeah. And then, of course, Stormy. And Stormy, before you realize the ending, could come off very much like a manic pixie dream girl, very much essentially that. And that's why I appreciate, even though the ending is so heartbreaking, it makes it all make sense. If it hadn't ended that way and she was through all the books and always this way, she would get old and you wouldn't understand it. And it would be kind of like, okay, it's just men writing women again.
Yeah.
And so you're right. With grief, you don't want to see any of the imperfections anymore. So there are probably lots of imperfections about Stormy, or things that we don't necessarily know, or things that would have happened to them because they're still both really young. And this is, from what we gather, their first loves are each other. And they are also, living off of this fortune teller card saying they're destined to be together forever. So they're kind of romanticizing their own relationship while they're in their own relationship, especially odd.
Like she gets a tattoo to match his birthmark.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like, especially I think Odd romanticizes it way more. And that's because he's writing this as a way of healing from his grief, from losing her. And we're going to talk about the ending in a little bit, but, it's like one of the few times where he doesn't really like his gift. He ignores his gift because he can't, because he loves her so much. She is she's a very strong person who's been through so much crap. And there's so many characters in here who have been through trauma. And you see them like, they're not all like sitting around like trauma all the time or having like horrible days, or they still are able to have a life. And I appreciate that too, that he's writing these characters that can go through the worst things possible and still survive and still have hope and still be trying to have a better life. And I really appreciate that too. And you really see that with Stormy. And I love that she like also has like just kind of a, she's a manager of an ice cream shop and she wants to have her own shop. And it's just kind of like this simple thing. I just like how simple a lot of that stuff is because of the chaos of their lives beforehand and also the chaos of the life going on then. Because she's dating someone who is, she's in love with someone who sees dead people and who puts his life in harm's way all the time. And that's got to be very stressful. And so I think that's part of the reason she has such a simple job and loves it. I want to say I worked at Baskin Robbins one summer. One of the worst jobs I've ever had in my life. Gave me carpal tunnel.
Oh, no.
I saw TikTok the other day. Someone was talking about, they worked at Cold Stone and they were talking about how everybody's like, what is one of the worst jobs you ever had? And they're like, working with ice cream. And everybody in the comments is like, yeah, working with ice cream is awful. I'll never eat Baskin Robbins ice cream because of that job.
Wow.
It's awful. Like it's so frozen and you're trying to scoop it and you try to get them perfect and it's a mess and you're sticky and the smell and anyway.
I vote for like pre-balled ice cream going forward.
Yeah, it's not a fun job. And I thought it was so funny that someone else said that. But so I think it's interesting that she wants to be a manager of an ice cream shop. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, no, you don't really want to do that.
Well, she wants to manage.
That's true.
She doesn't want to be a crew member.
That's true. She's like, I don't want to sit there. She wants to own her own. So she doesn't want to sit there and scoop the ice cream anymore.
She said, I'm too young for carpal tunnel. Like, let somebody else do that. That's for the teens.
Yeah, I was a teenager when I had carpal tunnel from scooping ice cream.
God. Absolutely wild, man. I had no idea.
Yeah, it's awful. I only lasted during the summer break. I was like, I'm never doing that again.
It's an educational thing, Pod.
Yeah, it's an educational thing, Pod.
It's to learn something you never knew you didn't know, Pod.
Yeah. That and working at Mrs. Fields Cookies were the two like big food jobs that I had. So yeah, in the mall, Mrs. Fields Cookies in the Aurora Mall. Which people go, oh my God, the Aurora Mall, that's so scary. That's a dangerous place. I'm sorry, that was a total weird tangent that I went on there. But yeah, because, she dealt with being, sexually molested and horrible, horrible, awful stuff happened to her. And she works in this simple job that, putting the carpal tunnel of it all aside. But she wants to have this simple life. And I think that is true of some people that go through trauma is they want to just not have everything be stressful. But I think it's got to be a little bit hard on her to have a boyfriend and to have this man she loves always like tempting fate like he does and tempting their fate and their, and also, she has so many moments where she's like, stop trying to protect me and stop trying to just like make me be okay. And in the end, her stubbornness and everything, I think, kind of helped lead to what happened to her. But also, this is the romanticized version of her. So it very well could have been a little bit different in spots. And like you said, Carla, we don't get to see them get married and have fights and all of that because It's very normal for couples to fight. I think it's kind of weird if people don't fight ever in their relationships.
Yes, for sure.
So I'm sure if this was written and she hadn't died, I would hope she wouldn't have been written as 100% manic pixie dream girl. And she would have had faults and they would have argued. But this is his love letter in a way to her and to her memory. And yeah, when someone dies, you don't want to sit there and go, what a horrible person, or when they did this one thing that I hated, or, you know, this fact that she wouldn't let me do this, or, you know, that kind of stuff. So I love that character. And I do think the name Stormy, while you could go, oh gosh, why come up with all these unique, weird names? It's not even her birth name. So that's not her birth name. But I love the name Stormy. I just think it's really a cool, it's a really cool name, and it adds to her.
It just shows so much personality on her part. Like, you don't need to know a ton about her. You know, you do eventually, but like if you were just casually reading this book and you're like, oh, her name was Bronwyn, but she decided to go by Stormy. Oh, cool. Interesting. It's like a storm is powerful and it does what it wants. And if there's going to be any havoc, it's going to be wreaked by the storm. The storm can't be hurt.
Yeah.
You know, and it's also like taking control over something major in her own life when she didn't have control of so much.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's why it's such a great name that she came up with. Yeah. And it probably is a way for her to remind herself that she's strong and she can survive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we are going to talk about the villain. I don't know why I said villainess. It's so annoying that I did that. We're going to talk about
We're going to talk about the vanillas.
about the villains, which at first, Odd thinks it's just Robert Thomas Robertson, which
Bob Bobson.
Yeah, which also Fungus Man, who, you know, has all the Botox around him. And so Odd breaks into his house and he's like obsessed with serial killers and all this stuff. And so he thinks that is who the main villain is, and that's the one he needs to stop. Well, he ends up finding his body. He gets murdered really quickly and dies, and he sees his ghost a few times. And so he has to figure out who his partners are, and he doesn't figure it out till towards the end. But his partners, two of them are, well, of course, they're cops. And I actually really appreciate that they're cops.
Me too, man.
And the other three are Ben Eccles, Simon Varner, and Kevin Gossett. And what happened is they all were like in like this cult, basically satanic. They were into Satanism. And those three, the three that I just mentioned, had gotten involved when as teenagers and first killed when they were 15, like on a dare. So they basically were like, loved it. They loved killing. And they are plotting to do a mass shooting at the mall, at the local mall. And they also have bombs and everything. So they're plotting this huge plot to kill as many people as possible, to lock people in the mall. Being cops, they have, of course, a lot more access to things. So what did you think about this plot line, about this being the evil that Odd needs to stop?
It is unbelievably realistic. Unbelievably realistic. Because you have these people who have a lot of power. They acquire the power pretty easily. And especially nowadays, there is like nil training required for cops. Like there's just, from what I understand, like the police academy isn't even like a requirement in a lot of places. Like they don't even have to have much training. But then look at people who are joining ICE. These are people who they're in it for something that has nothing to do with actual justice or improving anything other than their own pockets, and also to get out some aggression against people who don't have the power that they have. You know, the statistics of abuse among police, domestic violence that cops inflict on their spouses. There are statistics out there showing that there's a pretty high incidence of abuse in that cohort. So it's part of why it's so realistic. And then just that desire for power and for domination. And there's also, white supremacy tied up in it. There are so many truly awful things that make this incredibly realistic. And also the fact that, there are people that they want to overpower, but then there are people that they want to use. And they find somebody that they don't care about, that they just kind of see as like, look at this idiot, like he has money, we want money, we're gonna help ourselves to this piggy bank, and all we have to do in return is give him our trophies from our kills. It always struck me as very interesting that Chief Wade is seen as this amazing guy and this, great person who is in Odd's life, but he's working alongside these awful people, and he never even has any idea that it's not even on his radar.
Yeah.
That these coworkers of his, that he's also the boss of, have so much as the capacity for this. So, you can say, oh, well, they were pretty good at acting differently. 3 people, one person alone is going to have a hard time hiding all of that darkness. 3 people, I sincerely doubt it. So, and I don't think necessarily that Dean Koontz is like writing this as like an expose of like, oh, these are what cops are really for and about. I think it's just like for the shock value of like, oh, not the cops. But accidental or not, it's very in line with what we're seeing in the world right now of how police and police-aligned people are behaving and the things that they are, willing to do to advance their own violent agenda. And the whole point, of targeting Picamundo as opposed to a larger, better-known place, because they're in California, there are so many other cities that are very well-known and much more populated. But the point of targeting that particular place is planting the fear that it can happen to you. It can happen to you anywhere, and you're not safe anywhere. I think that there is an expected inherent risk in a major city. It's not like anybody moves there with the hopes that they're going to be part of some mass casualty event. But I think that it's seen as more expected. Like, well, of course, what do you expect? You're in Los Angeles, you're in New York. When it's some random small town where something awful happens, it's all the more shocking because you have this, this prejudice of smaller town people being more of a community and being more loving of their neighbor and all of that. It's why, think of how many of these mass shootings have happened in smaller places. And part of why it's so shocking is because it's a small place. How could this happen here? And that's when it's not planned necessarily like on this large of a scale. And the whole, satanic thing behind it is just like a little like, oh, it's just an explanation for why it doesn't matter. Like, it's such a nothing to the overall plot because people don't need to be Satanists to have awful motives to do awful things. And we see that every day. In fact, so many of the people who are doing these awful things are in fact Christians.
Yes.
So blaming it on Satanists, I think, is just, who can we blame? Oh, the people who worship Satan, because naturally, what else would they do? It's just a very interesting approach that he took as an author. I don't know that it was on purpose, but it's too real to the world, to our world.
Yeah, and this was in, 2003, so it's even more real to our world now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think he could have foreseen, how the gun violence epidemic, as it were.
Yeah, I mean, one thing Dean Koontz does do in a lot of his books is a lot of his villains, a lot of them are in some kind of position of power or some kind of position of control, and looking how that gives people who are bad people or who want to do bad things easy access to the things they want to do, and they might be swept under the rug or ignored because they're in the positions of power. And with making them cops, the reason that works, and also, with Wyatt not noticing, that goes to, and I don't think this was done on purpose, but that goes to the fact that it is just ignored within the departments. People ignore it. They know it's there. They know people are doing awful things, but they just turn their backs or completely ignore it, or they back each other. And if you don't, then you're a horrible person if you don't back your fellow coworkers as they do awful, horrible things. And also, it's important that these characters are all white. I want to say, too, they're all white. And that also statistically, that's who 99.99% of these people are going to be white and male, usually predominantly. And so I think that is also important, too. And the way they already come off as very egotistical and self-centered, and frankly, that's the way cops come off. And so to have that, it is very realistic. You could see people doing this, easily. I mean, it's done by cops on smaller scales all the time. So having it be the cops makes sense and works in this. And especially having it be in a small town, like you said, it is one of those things, that has become such a part of the fabric of our life, the risk of mass shootings, that I don't know about you, Carla, and I don't know about listeners, but it happens to me sometimes. I'll go somewhere and I'll just have that thought in my head of, oh my gosh, I hope, or I have to say, if I see a man walk in somewhere by himself, and a white man in particular, and especially if he's got like a backpack or anything like that, I'm immediately attuned to that person and thinking, oh gosh, I hope this isn't that. And it's just become a part, sadly, of our daily lives of thinking that, because it could happen anywhere, anytime. And sadly, it does happen all the time. And now it's become so commonplace that it's not even like a blip on the news, usually,
It's such a gut punch to look back at this book and when it was written and look now and see it's so normalized.
Yeah, I know. It's very sad. And I do appreciate that Fungus Man is not he's not a good person, but is not the main villain. He's really a foil for the three main villains. And I appreciate that, because it very easily could have been just this story about a serial killer and stuff. But this is a person that actually doesn't even do that. He just collects all the stuff from, which is just gross and disgusting when they describe when Odd finds all that stuff in the freezer and everything. It's really icky. So he's not a good person. It's just, I like the fact that the person that you would have thought would have been the big bad, so to speak, is just the foil for the other three that are just using him, like you said, for the money, all that kind of stuff. They're taking advantage of him. And he probably is like, oh, these cool people want me to be part of their big plan, when really they're just using him. So I also appreciate that. Honestly, it was an interesting twist to do on it. It's funny because it's really obvious once you find out who it is, yet it's done in such a way that it's not obvious, because you're also like, well, cops are inherently bad. So it's
right. Like the violence is there.
Yes. It's like anyone who signs up to work for ICE is inherently a bad person. So it's that same kind of thing. So yeah.
Yep.
And I don't care what you are all yelling at us right now. Although majority of our listeners I know aren't. Like
yeah, I know. Like I can't imagine like people being up in arms about those statements. Like, oh no, how dare you?
But we are going to take a break, and it is time to talk about the ending, Carla.
I object.
I know. I'm sorry. So we'll be right back to talk about the ending of Odd Thomas.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. Listening to this podcast? Smart move. Being financially savvy? Smart move. Another smart move? Having State Farm help you create a competitive price when you choose to bundle home and auto. Bundling Just another way to save with the Personal Price Plan. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Prices are based on rating plans that vary by state. Coverage options are selected by the customer. Availability, amount of discounts and savings, and eligibility vary by state.
This episode is brought to you by Peloton. Break through the busiest time of year with the brand new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus. Powered by Peloton IQ. With real-time guidance and endless ways to move, you can personalize your workouts and train with confidence, helping you reach your goals in less time. Let yourself run, lift, sculpt, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
So we're back. So in the end, we thought Stormy survived. Odd survived. Odd saved the day. And then Stormy and Odd are held up together, just enjoying life, enjoying each other. Of course, meanwhile, this whole time, this is a very talkative character. This character hasn't said a word since then. And so you learn that Stormy was shot and killed during the mall shooting. And Odd says, deep down, I knew from the moment I saw her that she was dead, but he couldn't deal with that yet. And so, Carla, I know when you when you got to this part and you messaged me, because I was like, oh, yep, she's found out what's going on is that he's dead. I mean, not he's dead. Sorry, that she's dead. And it was very heartbreaking. I remember when I first read this, I'm like, what? You killed Stormy? How could you kill this character?
Exactly. No, it's like, in a way, it feels like a betrayal, and it's set up to feel that way.
Yeah.
Which is, I think it's a very important thing that, there's a lot of discourse about how authors have a relationship and a contract with their readers that you're not supposed to break, and you're not supposed to lie to your readers and stuff like that. And the book, from the beginning, Odd is telling you, I am going to be an unreliable narrator, and I'm going to play with the tense of verbs. So there are things in which I am not going to be truthful. And you forget about that almost immediately, because you go straight from there to Penny Callisto's ghost and to everything that happens from then on. And then he reminds you at the end, I am an unreliable narrator. I have been telling you all of these things as if she's still alive, but she's not. But it feels very justifiable and justified because the book is a way of him to cope with his grief and with his loss. So it feels like a betrayal, and it also doesn't. It feels like a brilliant, brilliant twist. And that doesn't mean that it hurts less as a reader.
Yeah.
Because, you become very invested in the character and in their happiness. And they have just decided that they're getting married. And it's like, okay, we just have to deal with August 15th. And then after that, we're going to go to Vegas. We're going to get married. We're finally going to do it. And we're going to live happily ever after, like the card from the psychic says, that we are destined to be together forever and we have matching birthmarks. Therefore, everything is cool. So, like that moment when he is at the mall and he's right at the ice cream shop, when he has just gone down one of them, which one is it? Varner.
Mm-hmm.
And he very much wants to go and check on Stormy. Absolutely natural instinct, but he is compelled to go elsewhere. It makes sense because he is reassuring himself she's going to be fine. We are destined to be together forever. We have matching birthmarks. She is okay. I have to go do this other thing. And I think that is an incredibly admirable thing because, and it's part of what makes him such a great character, is that he doesn't know. He desperately wants to know. But there are so many more people who could suffer if he does that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very brave, and it's a huge amount of trust that he puts into the world. And it's very sad that he ends up coming out empty-handed for that trust. And then, we can talk a little bit about the adjustments to fate that took place, where he told her, he was basically begging her to stay home and to and she's like, I'm not going to live my life in fear. That's not what I want to do. I'm going to go to work. I will see you after this happens. And then we will go and get married in Vegas this weekend. And because, partly because, the respect that he has for her and the trust that he has in fate, he says, yes, okay, absolutely. I'm sorry that I have been trying to push you in any regard. You should do what you feel you should do. So you have that. And then also you have the possibility, however small it may be, that Viola showing up at the mall and him stopping Viola and telling her, you need to go to this other place because this is what's happening over here. And they had talked about the potential of a trade-off, he and Stormy, when she had asked him to try and get that girl from the bowling alley to not go, to change her plans for Wednesday. And he said, I can't really do that because if I do that, sure, she may be safe if she even takes me seriously, but then somebody else might die in her place. And what happens here? He stops and talks to Viola, convinces her to go the other way, and then Stormy dies. We don't know whether Stormy would have died either way. But we have that, that possibility because, and I think that that's like kind of the whole point of Koontz having put that in there at all, that action changed Stormy's fate. And it's sad as hell. And, no matter how many lives he saved, there are still people who died. And one of them happened to be Stormy. So there is never going to be a point where he doesn't feel that and he doesn't feel that guilt. And, it's very natural. It's something that first responders have to deal with so often where, they go into situation, they do the best that they can, and there's still casualties and there's still fatalities. But we're only human, and there's only so much that we can do, even with the best training and the best of intentions. And he's not a trained first responder. He's just a guy who happens to have a hint into the future and into the past. He doesn't have the answers. He doesn't have any certainty of anything. He's making connections and doing the best that he can with it. But for so many reasons, it is devastating when we find out that Stormy is dead and has been dead. The moment when, he's holed up in her apartment and all of his parental figures come and they tell him, it's been long enough. We've let you be because clearly you needed this time, but they've given us her ashes and it's time for you to face reality. We're here to help you face reality. And I think that's a very important thing that they did too, because as tempting as it is to say, no, just let him have this, her spirit is there. He can at least have that. That's a comfort to him. That's, a solace that he's not going to have once she's gone. But it's also not fair to Stormy's spirit because then she's trapped there for his sake. And it's one thing for like somebody like Elvis who wants to be there because he's not ready to let go. But Stormy is only still there for Odd. So the most beautiful scene in the book is when he says goodbye to her and she turns and she leaves. And I think that that's something also that anybody who has gone through any kind of loss of a loved one, it's so important and so kind of sad, but also reassuring to read that he got the chance to say goodbye to her spirit, because whether or not we got to say goodbye to the people that we loved before they passed, it's the idea that are they still out there? Are they content? Is their spirit safe? What, we have no idea what's happening, but it's so reassuring in this book that he knows exactly where she is and that she's not necessarily happy to be leaving him, but she has the attitude of we will see each other in the future. Our spirits will meet again. So he has that certainty. So it's so reassuring to read that and say, okay, I can have that too. Like I can put a bit of myself into that moment and share that goodbye with my loved one and know that their spirit has gone to that better place that we all hope is there after we're gone. So it's, oh my God, it's so crushing to read it, especially like that first time, because it's so unexpected and it hits so hard. But I think that like after that first time, it's more reassuring than it is devastating to know that, yes, in this book that I'm reading, that I know she's actually dead at the time that he's writing this, she's going to be okay. That part of her is going to be okay, and he is going to be okay. And he's going to be devastated, but he is going to have so much love around him and so much support, and it's going to help him get through it. Yeah, it's one of the best book endings that I've ever read.
Yeah, I completely agree. Everything you have said. And, I want to say, because, we've talked a lot about on this podcast about women dying for man pain and stuff like that. And I don't view this in that way at all.
Right.
Because there's so much respect given for her and her as an individual in the book. And it's also a very important thing for Odd, I think, to experience as well. And he's already motivated by so much that this isn't something that is going to motivate him to do like a big, huge thing, which is usually what that kind of death would be used for. It is something, when you read the other books, it is something that sticks with him a lot and is talked about in the other books as well. But it is, having it be a character that sees dead people and exploring grief with someone who sees that and sees her and, experiences these moments where it's almost like it's like, here's this happily ever after ending, and then we're going to just yank it away from you. But it's done in this way that's not cruel, even though you're angry about it. You're sad about it, but it's not cruel because it's always been set up. Like you said, Carla, from the very beginning, it's been set up. It's always been there. So it's not like he got lazy, Dean Koontz got lazy, and when I'm just going to kill her. It wasn't like that. I'm going to put in a shocking ending. It was, he had set it up, but he set it up in a way where you would forget about it. So it'd be more impactful once you got to that point. And when you hear them come there, when you hear his parental figures come to Odd and say, okay, it's time, and say they've released her, that is when you, as the reader, I think that's when it really hits you. Even more, it's like, oh my God, wait, what? She's dead? What? She's been dead this whole time? She died in this shooting? He wasn't able to save her. And he went and saved a bunch of people, which is great and wonderful that he did that, but he wasn't able to save her because of that. Or was it because of that? Or could their fate have ever been changed? Or this whole time you're thinking they're going to end up together no matter what because they got that card. And so it's also a way of commenting on that whatever you expect to happen might not always happen. Is fate real? How does fate change? And romanticizing this relationship and the reality of it. So it's like the romantic version of it, and then the reality of it is that we're not always going to be with each other forever. And him letting her go, though, is such an important thing also because it's him loving her enough to let her go. Because he could have easily, and I think she probably would have stayed, he could have easily been like, no, let's stay together forever. We'll still be together. But that would have destroyed her. And in the end, destroyed both of them. And so it's very important that he has that moment of saying goodbye to her, and that she mouths the word, I love you. The words, I love you, is also very impactful. And so while it, I think, breaks a part of Odd, of course, because that was his love. That was the love of his life, at this point, and it haunts him throughout the other books. It also was such an important thing to do. I think it's actually like, even though I hated it. I mean, I didn't hate it, but I was angry. I was sad. I cried. I couldn't believe he did this.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was like the only thing that made sense in a way. It's like almost inevitable. And it was done in such a beautiful way. And that's why it was even more devastating. I appreciate the fact that there wasn't like he went and found her and saw her and described seeing her body riddled with bullets. That would have been awful. And the fact that we don't have to endure that makes it all the more heartbreaking and also beautiful, because that was respectful enough to us as a reader and to her as a character to not have a scene showing her death in a detailed, graphic way, which is why I also think it doesn't fit into that killing a woman for man pain. Because I think if it was for that, there would have been a scene where he finds her body riddled with bullets, and it would have been descriptive, and it would have been this horrible thing, and that would have been your last memory of her. Instead, you get this last memory of this character walking off for eternal peace or whatever that looks like. We don't know. Odd doesn't really know. But having her be set free and that I love you, and knowing that they still will always love each other, but being able to let her go for her own sake and for his own sake. Because if he hadn't, that would probably drive him a little bit mad.
Yeah.
I mean, really, that would not have been healthy. So I maintain this is one of the best, like you said, Carla, endings ever of a book, because it's not done just for shock value either. I want to say it's done, this whole book is written as a way of someone dealing with their grief over the loss of a person they thought they were going to spend the rest of their life with and that they loved so much. And it's their love letter to that person. And it's their way of truly letting go of this person. And that's what makes it so beautiful, is you thought this whole book was about this one thing when really it's all about this. This is what the point of the book is. The point of the book is not about, stopping the mass shooting. That's a big part of it, but that's not what it's about in the end. In the end, it's about these two people, and it's about Odd and his grief and letting go of the love of his life. And that's what makes it so beautiful, is it's not just a horror novel. It's about, it's about something else. And I think, again, and I just will praise him all the time, because I think he deserves more credit than he gets, because he gets overshadowed by, Stephen King so much. But
Yeah.
I think that's something that Dean Koontz does so well, is have his novels really be about this. Most of his novels are about the human spirit and the love in that, because when he writes villains, he writes really scary people, awful people. But when he writes the heroes and the protagonists and those people, they're beautiful, amazing people who are incredibly flawed and incredibly weird and odd and different and unique. And I think it's so beautiful the way he does that. And that's why I think his novels work so well, because you connect so well to those characters and you see the beauty in them. And when he writes dogs in his books on top of it, it's even like, it's even 10,000 times more impactful. So yes, I love this ending. I think it's wonderful. I'm not going to say go read this book, because if you've listened to this and you didn't read this book, then you're kind of,
Yeah.
it's not going to be as impactful for you, I don't think.
You've been deprived of an experience of a lifetime.
Yeah. But thank you so much, Carla, for talking with me about one of my all-time favorite books by my all-time favorite author.
I would say it was a pleasure, but
But it wasn't.
Well, before anything else, I have a question for you.
Yes, sure. Shoot.
Okay. We get a very interesting idea of the afterlife in this book. Stormy has a very interesting concept for what it's like, that you go on. Like, this is phase 1, and then phase 2 is what she calls service, where you're, it's even worse than Earth, but it's to prepare you for ultimate, I forget what she calls it, but it's like when you actually get to rest, your soul gets to rest, and that's like the actual heaven. So I wanted to know, like, what are your thoughts on the afterlife?
Oh, gosh. That's a simple question, Carla. I can answer that
Easy
in 2
peasy.
seconds. I've mentioned this before when we did the Sixth Sense episode. I have had a lot of experiences with ghosts and spirits and that. So My belief in the afterlife comes a lot from my own personal experiences. It's fine if you don't believe me. I don't care. I'm the biggest skeptic in the world, even though I've had stuff happen to me. Lots of stuff. My thought is, I think when you die, as far as the afterlife, I don't believe in heaven and hell. I don't believe in that at all. I don't believe, I mean, if there is a hell, I do think it's for really, really horrible people. But I think when you die and if you move on, I think people that are ghosts and stuff, like, I appreciate when like this does it too, aren't ready to let go or they don't even know they're dead. I think it's a place where you go to finally be able to relax and be at peace. And I believe you can get reunited with people you've lost. I do love the whole thing that, as an animal person, of people saying the people who you'll be greeted at the door when you go to the afterlife will be the pets that you've lost before, and they have just been waiting for you. And that to me is beautiful. I would absolutely love that. It's hard to answer because that's my thought on it. I don't think heaven is like this harps and everything like that. I don't believe in that personally. I believe in God, but not in the way that is written in the Bible. Like, I believe in Jesus, but what Jesus really stood for, which is, a lot of Christians would, persecute Jesus today. That's a different conversation that they're not ready to have because they would. Number one, Jesus wasn't white, so that would automatically.
Immediately like, oh, no, I rebuke.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know if I really answered it, but I think it's like the reward for having to endure life on Earth. I kind of think of Earth and your life here as almost like, I don't mean to make it really dark, but almost like hell, the hell you go through, and then your reward is whatever that afterlife is. So what do you think, Carla?
No, I also have I don't have like a straightforward answer. I think that there is an afterlife. I don't know what it looks like. I don't know. I don't think that there are like categories that we go to. Like I don't think that people are necessarily punished, because I think that there is an ultimate, like you end up having to be accountable because you're forced to, like, you have, there are no worldly things keeping you from really facing what you've done.
Yeah.
Or what you've failed to do. So I think that there is something after. I think that ultimately we end up having peace, but I think that there is some reckoning that we do before we get there. So not necessarily service like Stormy says, but something after that we have to settle up before we can go off on, a fluffy cloud, whatever. We're not going to sit somewhere on clouds and play harps. But I think that there is a place of spiritual reward.
Yeah, that's the best way to put it, I think. Yeah. Tell us what you think. No, I'm just always curious when people say that. But a lot of times when people describe heaven to me, it sounds like such a boring place that I'm kind of like,
yeah,
no, well, I don't know.
We can get into the good place, but
yeah,
that's a,
yeah.
I think that was like such a good show because of its take on heaven and what heaven is like and what heaven should be like.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. Okay, well, I have no idea what Finn Whitrock's views are on the afterlife, but you can tell us, Finn. I'll ask you when I get to interview you someday.
There you go.
So, Finn, right after I say, connect yourself to somebody. I so want.
How many degrees from you to you?
Yep. That's one of the main reasons I want to interview Finn Whitrock, is so that I can play 6 degrees of Finn Whitrock with Finn Whitrock.
Hey, Finn, who's your favorite actor? Connect yourself to them now.
Okay, well, it is time to play 6 degrees of Finn Whitrock. So, Carla, did you play?
I did not.
Okay.
I am spiritually broken.
It's fine. I understand. I almost forgot myself. So I used the movie adaptation because it was easier that way. I'm sure there would be a different way I could do it. But Anton Yelchin was in the Star Trek movie with Chris Pine, like the newer Star Trek movies. And Chris Pine was in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse with Brian Tyree Henry, who was in the fantastic film If Beale Street Could Talk. And Finn is in there very briefly, but Finn Wittrock is in that movie too. So there you go. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Carla. And if you want to just let everybody know where they can find your podcast, okay, real quick, and yourself.
Yes, thank you, Erin. You can find Okay Real Quick wherever you found It's a Fandom Thing pod. Easy peasy. As far as social media, well, social media, we have activity, not so much. However, you can look for Okay Real Quick pod on TikTok and on Blue Sky, and believe it or not, on Twitter, even though I don't really do anything there. But you can also look for me and my art and my musings on TikTok with my one TikTok at Carla Temis. But you can look at my website, which has a lot more stuff. And that's carlatemis.com. That's CarlaTemis.com.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, Blue Sky. I don't get it. And I can't believe I'm still on Twitter. I'm like, why am I not leaving this place? It's so weird because I never post episodes on there. I retweet stuff, but I don't do anything on there anymore. I'm just like, it's
yeah, same. It's just such a cesspool now that I'm like,
it is. It's hell. There are still good people on there, but it's just like, why am I on here? So if you like horror and Fergie likes horror, and if you like dogs and Fergie is a dog, this is the weirdest way I've ever ended this.
If you like the species of Fergie,
you'll want to follow Fergie the dog on TikTok at Schroeder and Fergs. That's SCHROEDERANDFERGS. It's long, but it's worth it. To find all our past episodes, links to our social media, including our Discord server, which is a great, fun, welcoming place to come over and talk about all things fandom, pop culture, politics even, share pet photos, everything like that, head on over to itsafandomthingpod.com. And while you're there, consider becoming a Patreon supporter today. For as little as $3 a month, you get ad-free content. You get episodes a day early. You occasionally win prizes, and you get bonus episodes as well. So click the link in the show notes or head on over to the Support Us tab on our website, which once again is itsafandomthingpod.com. And next week, we are kicking off December with a bloopers episode. I wanted to give myself the weekend of my birthday off from recording. That's why I'm recording. I cannot believe how many episodes I'm recording this weekend. 5 podcast episodes. 2 of them are It's a Dean thing, so that's a little bit different. But still. So after that, though, Carla is going to be back. So it's going to be Carla, Jen, and Ashley from Talking Like a Teen podcast. You're going to be joining me to talk about VH1 of Love shows. It's going to be our silliest episode of the year. I always add one of these into December, it seems like. And I just thought it'd be fun. I, of course, will be talking a lot about Rock of Love, but there's also, of course, Flavor of Love. There's Daisy of Love. There's everything of love. So we're going to be talking about those trashy shows. And then the next week, Carla is going to be on all the episodes for the rest of this year.
Yeah, you get me all December and all January. So
oh my gosh, yes, because I'm going to go on Christian fucking Bale month. So then after that, we're going to be talking about the movie Home Alone. It'll be my first time ever watching this movie. I figured it's about time. And that's going to be Carla, Kim, and Bex. And then we're going to round out the year, as we always do, with our best of 2025 episode, where we count down our top 10 movies, books, television shows, albums, whatever it was that tickled our fancy. Why did I say that? In 2025. And that, of course, is always Carla, Erin A., Meg, and Sasha. So tell us what some of your top 10 things were too, and maybe we'll give you a shout out. So until next time, remember, it's a fandom thing. Black Lives Matter, Stop Asian Hate, and Free Palestine.
Rinse takes your laundry and hand-delivers it to your door, expertly cleaned and folded. So you could take the time once spent folding and sorting and waiting to finally pursue a whole new version of you. Like Tea Time You. Or this Tea Time You. Or even this Tea Time You.
So did you hear about Dave?
Or even Tea Time You.
So update on Dave.
It's up to you. We'll take the laundry. Rinse. It's time to be great.
From Adams Morgan to Anacostia Park, we all want safer neighborhoods. But what does real safety mean? Real safety means preventing crime before it happens. By having police work with communities to disrupt cycles of violence. By supporting families with stable housing. And providing more mental health and drug treatment. We know that adding more police and locking up more people doesn't make us safer. Real safety means investing in the things that help prevent crime. Learn more at realsafetydc.